this particular one might just be something they've just been hearing for the first time. That shouldn't be the way our history should be. It should be something we all grow up with. We know it. We tell it to one another. If you ask me now, I know Martin Luther. How? Because it was out there. Everybody knew about it. Everybody talked about it. It's part of our civilization. And there's nothing to be ashamed of. We've come out from there. Though I'll say that there are other forms of colonialism right now, but it's still part of what we grew from.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
I agree with you too.
It's so paramount for schools to actually pay attention to history, and of course, to it's time for us to embrace our culture.
True.
We are always quick to say that okay, English is this and all of that, but people should understand, or schools, and I think it's a collective effort basically, because even in some homes, you realize that aside the fact that on this day in history, something like this took place many years ago in Benin Kingdom, where the British people came in, all in the name of visitation to the kingdom, to the Benin Kingdom, and probably there was there was a festive period going on at the time, and we all have got policies or culture that defines us. Do you understand? Which other cultures have to learn to embrace. Without it, we cannot move forward. Just like the way we've globally embraced English language, just like the way we've globally embraced modernization, so to speak. That is the same way we should embrace our culture and own it to ourselves, so that other people will not tell our stories for us.
I agree.
What's your opinion in 1 minute?
I think it was just an unfortunate incident that it happened at that time. The question is, have we learned? Have we learned? Because as we speak, some of those artifacts are still in Europe.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're still in Europe. So why don't we fight for what belongs to us? You understand? And I think it was also very unfortunate that history was taken out of the school curriculum at some point.
But I think they returned
No, they've returned it.
They've just done that
They've
again.
done,
But for a very long time, because I remember talking to my daughter about certain things, they didn't do history in school. So if you don't know where you're coming from, how would you know where you're going
to?
All right, so we have to go now. When we read... All right, so, with all we've said right now, I believe that quite a number of people have been educated with on this day in history, and it's important for us to quickly go on a break and hear a word from our sponsors. Stay tuned, we will be right back.
On this day in history, between 9 to 18 February in 1897, exactly 124 years ago, the retaliatory Benin expedition of 1897 leads to the capture of Benin City. Yes, the Benin Kingdom was captured in the 19th century by the British. The Benin expedition of 1897 was a punitive expedition by a united force of 1,200 under Admiral Sir Harry Rodson in response to the defeat of a previous British-led invasion force under acting consul General James Phillips, which had left all but 2 men dead. Rodson's troops captured, burned, and looted Benin City, bringing to an end the West African Kingdom of Benin. As a result, much of the country's art, including the Benin bronzes, were looted and or relocated to Britain. Many of these looted treasures, artifacts, and bronzes are still strewn all over Europe in museums and exhibition centers. It is worthy to note that a few of them have been reluctantly repatriated to Nigeria.
All right, moving into the business of the day, we have Aisha Yesufu on the show to discuss the reopening of the Lekki toll gate. It has been a very controversial one, causing a lot of tension over the weekend. But before then, let's take a look at our profile. We will be right back. All right, so Lolo, with everything that is happening now, because I know that while we are trying to connect to our guests via Zoom, what's your take with the Lekki toll gate issue?
There's been a lot of tension when it concerns the Lekki toll, but we have to be objective, even if we're angry at the current situation. I know that it's a concession company, and they have like some number of years that they've signed with the government to be able to operate to be able to operate that Lekki toll. And of course, I know it's counting, but we have a very sensitive issue on ground that has not been concluded. It's still ongoing. Asking them to just open it just feels like, okay, we don't care about what happened. But if we've concluded on the matter and we've been able to get, okay, a positive reaction, whatever decision they come to, at least everybody can say categorically that, yes, we've been able to do that. But opening it just feels like it was insensitive.
Many thanks for that submission. So I think that we're connected to our guest right now. I would say that, hello, excellent afternoon, Aisha. Aisha, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Kike. How are you?
Very well, thank you. You know, salaam alaikum. All right, it's a pleasure to have you on the show today, and you're welcome to Real Talk with Kike. So let me ask you first, how are you doing? Have you been keeping safe with your family?
Well, I've been doing great. For me, basically, I'm sort of like on quarantine. I'm always indoors, so it's just a whole tough moment we are in the world at the moment, and one has to be careful. And so I limit the physical contact I have with people outside, so I stay more at home. And that of course happens because I run my own business, and there are people, my staff are always there to keep the business running.
All right, many thanks for that. I think I should just hit the ground running regarding the topic of today. I want to believe that the fight, you know, of the protesters is not against Lagos State as they defend our Lagos campaign, thinking, so to speak. You know, I believe the fight is against our judicial and legal system that has not served justice to the lives of Nigerians who allegedly lost their lives at the Lekki massacre. How do you see this?
Well, I think one of the things that needs to happen is for Nigerians to understand that their lives, there is value to their lives, and that Nigerian lives matter. A situation whereby people are killed and we just feel like, oh, okay, let's move on. I mean, we've been moving on from issues for over 60 years, and see where it has gotten us today, a country where there's no value for life, a country where there's so much intolerance, and people are just ready to go at each other and kill each other. And I think for those who are doing their defend Lagos, well, everybody has a right to defend whatever town they want to defend, but it has nothing to do with citizens who are simply coming out to make demands that they should be allowed to live, to be alive in their own country.
Many thanks for that.
All right, thank you very much, Aisha Yesufu. I just want to ask you, because a lot of agitations have arisen out of this Lekki toll, the reopening of it. Would you say it is time for the youth to reorganize themselves and put up a common front or put a face to the struggle, so that when it comes to engagement with the government, it will not just be faceless social media engaging the government, it will be a coalition of youth that are, you know, organized and able to engage the government together? What are your thoughts about that?
I think one of the things that we must realize is that we must, especially for me, for my own generation, I'm much older generation than the youth, I would say that we must not look at things from the way we used to do things. When we talk about the fact that the NSAS protest doesn't have a leadership, it does. They are all leaders. The people, they are all leaders. And at every particular time, they were always at the negotiating table. It's the federal government that was never at the negotiating table. So, you know, we're used to 9 to 5 kind of job when we're doing things, not a lot of multitasking. But today we have social media, we have technology, strategy, creativity, and a lot of ways that people can multitask at the same time. The NSAS protesters on the 11th of October, when the IG of police said that they had disbanded SARS and brought out 5 things that it meant, immediately there was 5 for 5. That's leadership. That's being at the negotiating table. And when days later, on the 19th of October, when the government wasn't doing what it was supposed to do, they also brought out another the 5 for 5 demand, saying this is what has been done, this is what the government needs to do, and giving the government ways to do it. So that was being at the negotiating table. And we've had a lot of youth, the NSAS protesters, youth members of the panel, the different tribunals that are going on. So it's not about saying they are faceless people, that people cannot, that the government cannot negotiate with people who are facing. Those are excuses that the government is using. And like I always say, excuses are like shoes, and you always find the one that fits. So trying to use the issue of no leaders, faceless, and all of that, it's not really it. For the youth, they use that as a strategy, knowing fully well the kind of government that they have, where leaders of protests are either picked up, arrested, are bribed to kill a protest. They've seen it over time, and they learned from it, and that was a strategy. And so because of that, nobody could pick any one person, nobody could go and give any one person money, and then they'll call off the strike and all of that. So I think the youth have really done what they ought to do. What we need to be asking, it's not even the youth, it's the government that is shameless. It's the government that is behaving like a terrorist government. No, strike that out. It's the government that is being a terrorist government, killing its citizens, instead of listening to its citizens that have come out to say, don't kill us. Don't kill us under the cover of darkness. And what did they get? They were actually killed in front of the whole world.
Aisha, it's nice to have you. It's nice to have you. So I was just thinking, I said, what is the way forward? Because it's like, we are caught between, if you would permit me to say that, the devil and the deep blue sea. What is the way forward? Because we need to start proffering solutions. Where do we go from here? That's my question to you, please.
So where we need to go from here is for every Nigerian citizen to understand that their lives matter. That's the number one thing. When we know that we have lives and we have enshrined rights, and that just being human beings gives us some basic human rights, and those rights are respected. Right now, our government isn't respecting the rights of the people. The government isn't following the Constitution. We must call on the government to do the needful. Doing the needful means listening to the people, giving good governance, accountability, and transparency, and not to unleash violence when citizens come out to make demands that it's lawfully allowed. Let's look, for example, the issue of the toll gate that is said to be reopened. First and foremost, we need to understand that LCC, I think that's the Lekki Concession Company, is being accused of being complicit in the attack that happened on the 20th of October 2020. Number one, lights were taken out by them. We saw when their staff came in and removed the cameras before the attack, and they have not been as cooperative as they should be at the panels, where they're talking about videos, their cameras stop playing at certain times and all of that. So that says a lot. For that to now happen, that right now the most important thing is to go ahead and allow them to work. That's an assault to every Nigeria. Where is the justice that people are calling for? What the government needs to do now is to stop that and ensure that the panel people actually get justice. When people know they're going to get justice, they won't be agitated. I see a lot of people who are coming out and saying that, people are earning, employed there, they are earning their means of livelihood from there. If they are killed and they are in the morgue or they are in the cemetery, there won't be any livelihood. And so the NSAS protesters are simply coming out for every one of us to be safe in our own country. And we must understand that. We see a situation whereby companies have cases in court, and it takes years before the cases are done with, and they have to stay closed within that particular period. So why is the rush to have Lekki toll gate reopened, but there's no rush for victims to get justice? And so we must get to a place. The way forward is for the government to start listening to its people, is for the government to bring in the Nigerian youth who have shown intelligence, who have shown creativity, who have shown strategy, who have technology to use and are using it, deploying it very well, and have social media to use, and have shown us that indeed they can organize, they can strategize, they have the brains to do it. For the Nigerian government to begin to work with them, and let's find a way forward for Nigeria. This is our assets right now. Instead of the government to work with the assets that we have, the government is destroying it. And at the end of the day, it's not going to go well for all of us.
Aisha, for that submission. I think we're still on the Lekki Consultant Company, that's the LCC. And I think last week I read when over 500 jobs will be lost to the closure of the Lekki toll gates. So my question is, why should protesters see the Lekki toll gate as a fighting ground? Isn't the state secretariat a more appropriate ground to fight for the demands of justice from our governments?
I think the question you should be asking is, why did the government go to Lekki toll gate and send in military to kill citizens? And that's the question we should be asking. If any one of us were amongst those that were killed, I'm sure we wouldn't be having this conversation. And that's why I always take it back to where I say, let Nigerian lives matter. We must know that our lives are valuable, so that when one citizen is killed, the people are angry that one person is killed. When one of us is killed, let's take it that all of us have been killed, and so we do something about it. If we look at, we're still talking about jobs, and people are talking about 500 people that haven't that the jobs are being affected. I'm saying that if those 500 people are dead, they won't be talking about jobs. If we look at 9/11, when 9/11 happened and the Twin Towers came down, Twin Towers had such economic importance, and it was possible to have put that building up, immediately. There was a reason why those buildings weren't put up again. Instead, a monument was built there. Respect for lives, and as long as we do not have respect for and dignity for human life, we continue to have different atrocities happening in Nigeria. So for now, the toll gate, it's a symbol. It's a symbol of the callousness of the Nigerian government. It's a symbol of the atrocities of the Nigerian government. It's a symbol of the brutality of Nigerian government that has been going on for over 60 years, and which the youth of today have found their grandparents, their parents oppressed, and now they're being oppressed, and they're coming out to say no. And the least that we can do as citizens of this country is to lend our voices to them, so that we ensure that we have good governance, accountability, and transparency. We have rule of law. We have human rights are being upheld, and every one of us matters. Let me just divide a little bit. Digress a little bit. When an American citizen was abducted in Niger Republic and brought into Nigeria, guess what? The American government did not say, oh, who sent the person there, or what was he doing there, or it's just one person. They came into Nigeria, they rescued their citizens. That was even when Nigerian people knew that an American had been abducted in Niger Republic and brought into Nigeria, which is seen as a safe haven, because lives must matter. We must get to that stage. Let's not be looking at economy and all of that. Let's be looking at human lives. People have been killed before NSAS protest. People are still being killed, and families are facing the brutality of losing loved ones. And I see sometimes, Nigerians, we're so selfish to a very good extent, where we don't think about things only when it happens to us. Then the person will be saying, so this thing not true. This thing where they hear say they happen, so true they happen. One of the things before I round up on this one is to let every one of us know that being a victim in Nigeria is no longer a matter of if, it is a matter of when. And I also say yesterday's victims were once survivors. Today's victims were yesterday's survivors, and tomorrow's victims would be today's survivors. The question is, who is next? Those that have been killed before would not be killed again. The next to be killed are those of us that are alive, and we must be more interested in safeguarding our lives rather than what we are earning.
Thanks again, Aisha, for that submission. And of course, you've raised a lot of issues right there that I know my co-host is going to pull a lot of questions from. But let me quickly open our phone lines. Please call us on the number on the screen, and of course, you can call us and other perspective on this way. Again, I think it's important for us to quickly go on the break. We will be right back. Let's get a word from our sponsor. We'll be right back. All right, guys, many thanks for tuning in. If you are just joining us, this is Real Talk with Kike, and we are on to Aisha Yesufu, who have been educating, and of course, the active citizen of Nigeria. Aisha, I think my first question to you, there are quite a number of things that you've raised while you were addressing a lot of questions from myself and my co-host, because I understand that, quite a number of things have not been addressed by the government. Some people are still saying, who sent the soldiers? Who sent the police people? Because nobody has taken account, nobody has taken ownership on that, and we are still going back and forth. So Aisha, I hope you're there.
I'm here.
Yeah. So Aisha, my question to you now is that, who should we hold responsible till date regarding who shot on the citizens of Nigeria? That's the first question to you. Again, quite a number of celebrities who have, risen in the first protest have rather gone silent now. We don't see clamors of celebrities that even, live around the axis of the toll gate, people living around the axis of the toll gate. They have gone quiet. Is it a question of fear of the government of the day, or what exactly can you draw from this silence?
So first of all, let me take the last question on the issue of celebrities have gone silent and all of that. One of the things that I would say to every one of us is that nobody owes anybody advocacy, nobody owes anybody activism, nobody owes anybody voice, and every one of us has a role to play and to occupy our offices of the citizen. The office of the citizen is the highest office in the land. The office of the president is the highest political office in the land. And so the office you and I and every Nigerian occupies is the office of the citizen, and we must all activate that office. So when we sit down, we are asking what have the celebrities say, what have this person said, what have that. The question we should be asking ourselves is that what have we said as citizens? What have we done? What have we said? Is it that we are not all suffering? Is it that we are not all feeling it? So I think for me, it's more about looking at certain people and say, what have they not said? It's about looking at all of us and say, what have we not said? Many people want to move on from the issues. Many people are even blaming the people who are protesting. The people who are the ones that are mostly affected, we'll put the ones that come out and call people all sorts of names and then, say one thing or the other, would rather support the government, because in Nigeria, we have a culture of supporting the victim, the perpetrator, rather than the victim. That's the first. That's on the second question. Going back to the first question, which is who do we hold accountable? The government, the local government, the state government, most especially the federal government. The federal government, because there's only, and apart from beyond the federal government, the president and commander-in-chief, Muhammadu Buhari. Because in the Nigerian system, everything security is under the commander-in-chief. And the military is directly under the commander-in-chief. And if the military have sent in people, they are meant to come and kill whatever they do, the commander-in-chief, the buck stops at his table. So having said that, one of the things we must always not do, and which is what we do in this country, is to reward bad behavior. For example, the military came out and said that they were not at Lekki Gate on the 20th of October 2020. Then they came out to say, oh yeah, they were there, but they shot blanks. And then we see evidence mounting, different investigations being done to show that indeed the military were there, indeed the military fired. It wasn't blanks they fired, it was bullets they fired. And I think there was a news medium, I think it was CNN, who even used some of the bullets and were able to link it back to Nigerian army, those bullets that were found there, the shells and all of that, where they were bought from and the period with which they were called. They did ballistic investigation and all of that. And then we have, I think it was Reddington Hospital that came out to say they treated a lot of gunshot wounds and all of that. We have victims who are coming out and saying that this is what happened to them on that day. Some of them have lost their limbs, and yet nothing has been done to the military. Nothing was done to the Chief of Army, the former Chief of Army Staff. Rather, now he has retired and he's being nominated to be a non-career ambassador by the president for what they are, in spite of the atrocity that has happened. We must be a nation where people take responsibilities for their action, and bad behavior is absolutely punished, and nobody is above the law. Until we do that, we continue to grapple, and lives wouldn't matter, and we continue to have this bad governance that we're seeing all through now. So I would say to you, the government, local government, Lagos state government, what's his name again? Sanwo-Olu, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, should be held accountable and responsible. Because according to the words they were trading, he had said he didn't invite the military. The military said that he was the one that invited them. First of all, is it just to take a phone call? This just sends sent me on another thought now. Is it just to take a phone call and deploy the military to a place just like that? Anybody can do that. So how come it was the governor, who doesn't have constitutional right to deploy the military, was the one who deployed the military? These are the questions that we should begin to ask ourselves. This impunity must stop. Having said that, another thing that comes to question is the issue of the fact that the accounts of protesters were frozen without any authority by the court. The court, the injunction by the court to freeze the account was gotten after October 20th. I think 23rd or something like that. But meanwhile, accounts had been frozen way before October 20th. So the CBN governor can just call banks and tell them to freeze accounts, and that just happens because Nigeria is a banana republic, because Nigeria is a jungle where anybody behaves with impunity. These are the things that should worry us. And I will repeat again, the government takes absolutely responsibility for what happened to NSAS protesters, and we need to ensure that it doesn't happen again.
Thank you very much, Aisha. We can feel the passion and all the points that you've been putting in. Another school of thought, this morning, one of the things we saw in the news is that 2 members of the judicial panel, and that is the lawyer, the son, Adegorua, and the youth representative, Rino Oduala, they have extricated themselves, or they have removed themselves from the judicial panel, that they can no longer be a part of it because of the decision that the panel took to allow the reopening of the Lekki toll gate. Another thing that the government will probably tell us is the fact that they are trying to avoid a massacre again. That is why they are trying to prevent the protest. And I'm wondering that the Constitution still gives every individual the right to a peaceful protest. And we saw what happened on Saturday, that some people were picked up just for protesting, for holding up placards. I even heard a very funny story about some young women that were in a bus, and they were just talking about all the recent happenings. And a police officer would get down and harass them, and people have to beg to release them. Would you say that the government is thinking about the lives of the people? That is why they are putting that kind of strong force to be able to prevent them from having any protest whatsoever?
You see, I wonder how you are preventing a massacre that was initiated by you by performing illegality. So the massacre that happened at the toll gate was done by government, was done by the state government, the federal government, the military. The Lagos state governor himself invited the military, and they came in and they killed people. So how are they preventing that? Because they were the only way to prevent that was for them not to do what they did. So, and then coming to say that you're stopping a protest because you don't want a massacre to happen, or you don't want there to be a clash. What's the work of the police? Then that means we are otherwise saying that our police that has been rated the worst in the world, that rating is actually not only true, but they are not doing anything to change that rating. Because the constitutional duty of police is to, towards protesters, is to provide protection for them. And that's the reason why you're supposed to inform the police when you're going for a protest, give them at least 48 hours notice, not looking for permission. Police have no right to give anybody permission for protest. As citizens, the Constitution has already guaranteed that. So the government coming to say that, oh, they will arrested people, or the Lagos State police that came out to arrest people, not only arrest people, but tortured people, and, you know, put the videos out there. It's absolutely absurd. And it's one of those things that we must never, ever accept in any way whatsoever. Having said that, this same police, the Lagos State Police Command, that came out and we're all kitted up and everything, we're everywhere. There was altercation before the NSAS protest at a place called Obalende. And I think I've been informed that there's actually a police headquarters right there. On the day that talks were fighting, just a few days before the NSAS protest at Lekki toll gate, talks were fighting, the police actually barricaded themselves in. They didn't even allow, you know, passerbys that wanted to run for safety into the police building. They didn't do that. They didn't come out to stop the talks that were at war. They did nothing. They failed in their duty to protect the lives and properties of Nigerians. And yet, when it is time to face peaceful protesters, that is when they come out and show their might and everything. What happened in Obalende? Apart from Obalende, there was another place a few days after the Obalende days, when I can't remember the name of the place in Lagos. Talks were actually fighting in the last few years. Lagosians have been crying over kidnappings, over being extorted by talks, area boys being killed. A lot of people have been killed, knife wounds and all of that. The police have not been able to do something. But it is when it comes to protesters that they know, protesters who are obeying the law, who are doing what the Constitution allows, that's when they come out. Let me even add another dimension to this, just related to the father. On the 21st of October 2020, there was, I think, a policeman had killed some thugs. And they went on mayhem, and they started attacking Lagos, and that was the mayhem that happened. And what did the government try to do? The government have been trying so much to link that mayhem that happened to EndSARS protests. Meanwhile, it had nothing to do with EndSARS protests. It happened a day after the attack, when they had killed some thugs, and so those thugs went on to go and burn a police station. If the Obalende attack had happened maybe on the day of that EndSARS were attacked, or the day after that, they would have conveniently tried to say that, oh, it's EndSARS protests were hijacked. And finally, before I rest from this case, let me make it categorically clear that EndSARS protest was never hijacked, has not been hijacked by thugs or hoodlums. Hoodlums were sent in by government to attack EndSARS protests. That's why Nigerians looked away. Lagos State government sent in hoodlums in government buses. In Abuja, hoodlums were carried in a military vehicle, in police vehicle, and they were supervised by police and other security agents. Why they maimed, they attacked, destroyed the properties of protesters, and also killed some protesters. Nigerians did nothing. And then these hoodlums that were unleashed by the government and given enabling environment for them to do their thuggery, decided to go against the government, and they started fighting palliatives that government had hidden from the poor people of this country, and they went rogue, and there was mayhem all over Nigeria, and it had absolutely nothing to do with the EndSARS protest. It had everything to do with the government that is used to using thugs to fight people during election and now during protests.
All right, many thanks for that. Aisha, we have a call on the line. Hello, what's your name and where you call? I learned that you are calling from Edo State. Ben, what's your contribution today on the show?
Hello.
I can hear you.
Yeah, I want to respond to what the Aisha Yesufu have been talking about. They were using Lekki something. Is that not STV?
Please go ahead.
Hello?
Please go ahead. All right, apologies for that. I think Ben, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Please, can you make your thoughts count?
Okay, what I'm trying to say now is that all this talk about the Lekki Peninsula, it is not only Lekki Peninsula that was involved in EndSARS. Is she telling me now that because of EndSARS, the people have no right again to pass through Lekki Peninsula to do their business? Everybody has a right to do whatever they want to do. They cannot be disturbing everybody because of the Lekki Peninsula and all that, with all the big drama they are speaking there. Okay?
All right, many thanks for your contribution. I think it's important for us to quickly go on a break, and we will be right back with Aisha and our second guest. Stay tuned, we will be right back. All right, many thanks for tuning in. You're still on to Real Talk with Kike, and shortly before we go to our second guest, we will go. We have Dr. Kyle in the house, and of course we still have Aisha Yesufu on our Zoom phone lines. And she's been sharing all her thoughts, and she's a courageous woman, I must say. But quickly, Efo, let me come to you. What's your take? What question do you have for Dr. Kyle in the studio right now?
Dr. Kyle, you're welcome. Pleasure. Welcome to Real Talk with Kike. As a security expert, I want to find out, what are your thoughts right now about the situation? One, the reopening of the Lekki toll gate to the we're talking about what happened just this past Saturday at the Lekki toll gate. And number 3, I'm worried about the police in the country.
The general security in the country.
General security, but I'm limiting this to the police since we're talking about the Lekki toll gate. So I'm just limiting it to that.
Yeah, you see, on that security, you are limiting on the police as regards what happened in Lekki toll gate. We wouldn't be able to handle that one just alone because the police too is existing within a territorial integrity on which cannot stand on its own. But let's first of all go back to the opening of
the toll gate.
Toll gate.
Yes, sir.
We have to first of all understand one particular thing. The empire of Nigeria is being controlled by a small group of people, the businessmen and the politicians. Either anybody likes it or not, whether you likes it or not, whether Kike likes it or not, whether the Alcalde likes it or not, those people's interest is what they will first of all put in the burner before yours. And that is why I always clamor for you and I to always join our hands together to ensure that we stop all this their putting their hegemony on us, forcing it on us. Let me tell you what happened at toll gate. There was a protest. People were killed. People were maimed. People were injured. And these people, they need restitution on this. Let me take you back to what happened in South Africa during the Mandela era, the Truth Panel. Everybody were taken care of, both the blacks and the Oyibos. All right? Without jeopardizing anybody's interest. But to this one now, they're saying, okay, let us set up a panel to handle this, to handle that. That means the frayed nerves needs to be cooled down first. But because the so-called Nigerian empire that is being controlled by the politicians and the businessmen, they couldn't afford to wait. And before you know it, the chairman of, in actual fact, what are the terms? What are even the terms of reference? Are they not just to recommend? Are they to make proclamation? No.
True.
And especially those people that are representing the interest of those that their nerves have been affected. They were saying, no, if I meet Onogoro on the road, I don't know him.
Yes.
But I appreciate what he was doing there and these other people. You wanted to give a minority report, and the so-called chairman decided to wind up. Are they saying this thing is going to go the way of Peter Panel went? So it is a big issue. Now, let me also relate it now to Nigerian security. It's not just the police.
I agree.
Because when you're talking about the police, you look at the head of the police. I always say it. Like the other time, I was discussing with Kike. I said, look, let the president and the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, let him change the service chiefs 1,001 times.
But they have
listen to me. What we are saying is what we still be saying. Not until when he himself should change his attitude towards people's security. Right. Not until when he himself should change his so-called, what do we call it now, agenda. Agenda, which is with a question mark.
All right, many thanks, Kyle, on that submission. I think this takes me back to Aisha. You know, I hope we still have Aisha on our Zoom line, please. All right. So, you know, with what Kayode have said now, Aisha, I cannot help but ask this question. We have seen well-meaning Nigerians like Femi Falana-San, Atiku Abubakar, and former President Olusegun Obasanjo calling on the government to allow the freedom of speech to reign as the youth have rights to protest. What is your take that freedom of expression is being snatched from Nigerians? In 1 minute, please, Aisha.
First of all, I think just like the guests over there have said, Nigeria is like a PLC, it's not like a country, and we have shareholders that are treating us the way they want to treat us. One of the things that always happen is the fact that we allow people get away with bad behavior. For example, the former president Olusegun Obasanjo and also the former vice president Atiku Abubakar that are today talking about the rule of law. When they were there, they did the same thing. They didn't enshrine that rule of law. If they had enshrined it, nobody will probably have diverted from it, would have been used to it. I remember in 2003 when the present president Muhammadu Buhari had gone to Kano to do a protest, and he was attacked and tear gas, and that was what led to the death of Tuba Okadibo. And he went to court. Femi Falana stood up for him pro bono, took the matter up to appeal court, where it was ruled that we do not need police permission to protest, and since the constitution has already given us that right to protest, we have that right. But guess what? The same person who went to court to get that judgment is the person who is president today. And what is he doing? He is ensuring that people do not have the right that he had gone to court for to come out and protest under him. And that's the hypocrisy that we have with our leaders who, when in office, they behave like tyrants, and when they come out of office, they begin to tell us the right thing that ought to have been done. And I think it's high time for Nigerians to no longer accept that, for us to know that we are citizens and not slaves in this country, and that no Nigerian is more Nigerian than any Nigerian.
Wow, fantastic submission. I just want to ask that. We've been hearing that they're re-engineering the police. When I saw the police on Saturday, I was quite shocked that we had such uniform, we had such formation, we had such gadgets, such equipment, such artillery, you know, in the police force. And I'm wondering that if we do have this, why is it that it's so hard for it to be deployed in the right time? And now the people that should be protected by the police are the ones that are being oppressed. And I'm wondering that as a security expert, would you say, how does this make us even look outside? How do the people, like I woke up with a fear today, and I'm wondering that if I'm an invading country, and I look at Nigeria for the way we are now, it feels like we don't have it all together. And that's why it's become something that we need to talk about. What do you think?
1 minute, please.
As if you were with me over the weekend when I was discussing this issue with somebody else. All right? It's not that we don't have all these equipments in place, but they deploy all those things to be able to protect their own interests. All right? Look at when election is coming up. When we want to have elections, you see number of policemen, number of officers that we deploy to all those states, all right, to ensure that the election goes their own way. Why don't they deploy such number of officers to Sambisa, all right, to go and quell riots here and there? But it is only when they want to serve their own interests, when they want to protect their hedonistic tendencies, that is when they come up with all those things. But for them to put it to you, like Aisha has said, they are seeing themselves as bigger than other Nigerians. And that is what we need to remove from our society.
All right, many thanks on that. I think on a lighter note, it's important for me to ask Aisha this question. Aisha! All right, Aisha, I know that before you go, despite your boldness, the courage to stand against injustice, you know, we see the woman that you are. And I cannot help but to ask, how did you spend your Valentine on Sunday? Just on a lighter note, I would like to know.
Normally we would have gone out, you know, have fun and everything. But at the end of the day, it was just me and my husband in the house, and he was telling me that, oh, you know what? That Valentine's is now for young people because our children are all young adults. We shouldn't be thinking of doing Valentine's. So I just spent it watching TV with him and gisting. And so, which is not normally what we do all the time. But then every day is Valentine and you got to do it alone.
A nice one. Thank you so much, Aisha Yesufu. Your words are always direct and real. It has been a pleasure to be with an active citizen. I hope I can say that she's the #1 active citizen. I said it's right here on Real Talk with Kike, and the social activists like you on the show to share your opinion of Nigerians. Many thanks again for sharing part of your lunchtime with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you to everyone over there.
Many thanks. So, Kyle, let's try and put a wrap to this, Efo, let me let you go.
Okay. Now we have talked about the police.
In 1 minute. In
yes.
1 minute.
So, what do we do about our military formation, the police force? We're looking like silly people in the eyes of other clients. We see others, they have their challenges in their countries, we know. But we are now looking so foolish in the eyes of people, particularly with what happened on Saturday. I was ashamed.
You see,
what do we do?
Yeah, you see, it is like a system. When one is having a defect, like when you have whitlow on your small finger now, definitely it affects the whole of your body.
True.
So when you are not having the right type of leadership that is supposed to be in place, 1, 2, when people are become so docile in totally participating in the electoral process, what we are seeing is what we be seeing. Not until when my friend here is saying, look, politics is no more a dirty game. When you join, let us clean that there and start from the process and then elect who emerges from the Congress up there. And then for us to have good leadership in place, this is all we be saying. When you have good leaders in place, the military formation will be okay, the police will be okay, economy will be okay, social, cultural, everything will be okay. And even Kike will looking more brighter than this.
All right,
it's very generous.
Indeed. All real talk from our 2 guests on the show today. They left us with deep insight on the issue and a resounding question for government to answer on justice and, of course, on freedom of speech, fundamental human right from the citizen. So we'll come again on Thursday to give you some real talk, or to give you real talk, better still. Right now we are wrapping up with our song of the day. Keep being real. We will be back on Thursday. Bye now.
Bye.